How many folks support Vice President Harris? Any hands? No hands.
Wow.
Okay.
It's nobody's business.
It's nobody's business, says one man. So there you go. I tried Maria, and
She was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of the bill with Bernie Sanders as a U.S. Senator for Medicare for All for Americans. The reality is, when you think about the Green New Deal, she was the chief proponent, not just as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but going further and saying she would end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. So the reality is she can say what she wants to say now. Those are actions she has taken. Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are. But she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? What exactly is her healthcare plan if she no longer favors abolishing private health insurance, which just 4 short years ago when she ran for president, she did? And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing. I think Donald Trump has received plenty of scrutiny, and I give credit to him for sitting for hostile interviews that Kamala Harris has not.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about this interview that is flying under the radar featuring Kamala Harris and a local CBS Pittsburgh outlet. And this interview right here is a great example of why Kamala Harris doesn't do interviews, okay, why she's avoiding the press, okay, because when she is confronted with a real question, when she is confronted with her own words, the things that she has supported in the past, she absolutely crumbles. She has no explanation whatsoever for why is it that she's flip-flopping on key issues like, for example, fracking, which is what this local reporter asked her about because he's in Pennsylvania and he confronted Kamala Harris with her own words when she stated that she wanted to ban fracking. And Kamala Harris told this reporter that it is misinformation. It is misinformation to confront her with her own words. Take a look.
Harris will ban all fracking.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
That will immediately put tens of thousands of Pennsylvanians out of work and send utility bills skyrocketing.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Trump will protect clean energy fracking and protect the jobs it creates.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Well, Madam Vice President, I don't have to tell you how important natural gas is to this region. It's how we heat our homes and our factories in this region. It's very plentiful and cheaper than oil. And we extract natural gas through fracking. So I wanted to ask you, there's a political ad on TV from a 2019 Climate Hall town meeting that you had, in which you basically said, quote, "There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking," unquote. The ad claims that if you're elected president, you will ban fracking and you will cost Pennsylvania over 300,000 jobs. Have you changed your view on fracking? And if so, why?
So let me start by saying that that ad, as you described it, is absolutely a mischaracterization that I think is intended to make people afraid of my presidency. And let me be absolutely clear, as I've been when I said it back in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, I cast the tie-breaking vote to open up more fracking leases. And my perspective on this is grounded in a number of things, including that we don't have to ban fracking to do the work that we can do to also invest in a clean energy economy. So that's where I stand, period. As President of the United States, I will not ban fracking. I did not as Vice President of the United States. And frankly, I think some of those ads are misleading intentionally to suggest to folks that they should be afraid, because on the other side, what you've got in my opponent is somebody who could and has not really done much about lifting up the middle class. My perspective on this issue is that I'm going to bring jobs back to rural communities. I'm going to make sure that we invest in those communities that have done the kind of work that you have in mind when we talk about Pittsburgh, when we talk about the greater aspect of Pennsylvania, and I'm going to keep doing that work.
Yeah, so once again, Kamala Harris face plants when confronted with her own words, okay, because in 2019, she unequivocally supported banning fracking in Pennsylvania, okay? She said that she would ban fracking as president of the United States.
I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah. So
that was quite clear. So she ended her 2020 presidential run in December 2019. The only debate she participated in 2020 was the general election debate with then Vice President Mike Pence. And I went over the transcript of that debate tonight. Nowhere in there does she make clear that she had abandoned her previous support for a fracking ban. Rather, she repeated that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would himself not ban fracking. So listen to what she actually said in that 2020 debate.
Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
So it makes perfect sense that at the time she was speaking on behalf of Biden, the president, not the vice president, sets administration policy. But maybe other people feel differently. I certainly did not hear anywhere in there Kamala Harris saying that she personally had abandoned her previously expressed 2019 view. Rather, again, she was speaking for Joe Biden.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Once again, Kamala Harris is basically telling the American people that don't believe the things that I said in the past, right? Those things that I said at that town hall, do not believe them, okay? That's a mischaracterization of my position, which calls into question, if we couldn't believe you then why is it that we should believe you now? Which, again, is funny because I don't understand why Kamala's campaign advisors keep telling her to do this. We have Kamala Harris on tape taking these cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs policy positions, but instead of explaining why is it that you changed your position and did you change your position, she just refuses to do so, right? All she has to do is come out here and say, hey, I was wrong, okay? And the reason why I changed my position is because of X, Y, and Z reasons, right? That's all she has to say. But she refuses to say that, right? She basically says that anybody that says that she took that position before in the past, which she did, okay, on tape at a town hall, she unequivocally stated, I will ban fracking on day one. If you call her out on that, oh, well, you're mischaracterizing what I said, right? Well, what was the mischaracterization? She doesn't explain because she doesn't feel the need to explain. But see, the thing is that if she actually explained herself, that would actually help her. The fact that she continues to not explain herself and she wants you to believe her today and the things that she says today when she's also at the same time telling you that you shouldn't believe the things that she said 5 years ago. This is one of the main things that is currently hurting Kamala Harris in her campaign. So don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about it, right? If Kamala Harris wants to continue to do this, then just keep doing it, right? But I just think that it's funny how she wants the American people to believe her today when she's also telling you, well, you shouldn't believe what I said yesterday, right? And she doesn't explain why is it that she changed her position. The easiest thing to do would just to come out and say that I was wrong and I changed my position for X, Y, and Z reasons. And it would just be over and done with, but she doesn't want to do that. She'd rather just lie. She'd rather just tell you that you're crazy, right? You're crazy for believing what she said back in 2019, right? And then just continuing to lie about the things that she said in 2020. She claimed that, oh, well, I said that I would ban fracking as vice president. But you didn't say that. What you said was that Joe Biden wouldn't ban fracking as president. And here's what really gets me, right? Here's what really gets me, okay? Kamala Harris wants you to give her credit for the tie-breaking vote that she cast for the Inflation Reduction Act, but you can't criticize her for her failure as vice president to leverage those tie-breaking votes in order to get the agenda accomplished that she claims that she's going to do if she's elected, right? So again, you're supposed to give her credit for tie-breaking votes, but you're not supposed to hold that against her, in which this reporter confronts her on her role as VP and the Biden administration's agenda, in which, once again, you're going to get a non-answer from Kamala Harris in regards to what were her actual responsibilities.
Two more quick questions, Madam Vice President. Former President Trump says that you've had 4 years as vice president to do all the things you've promised in the campaign, but haven't done it. Is he right, or did President Biden not give you or limit it in some way your role as vice president?
So let's start with this. I think that the former president is really becoming quite desperate, and has really been offering a lot of misstatements and misinformation. And perhaps it's because he wants to distract from the fact that he has offered no plan for the American people. I have talked about this before. I invite you to go to his rallies, and what you'll hear about full time is him talking about himself and his personal grievances, but what you won't hear him talking about is you and the needs that you have as a working person, as a family person. My plan is about building an opportunity economy where I'm going to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance so they can get their foot in their door to be able to be a homeowner. My plan is about $6,000 tax deduction for middle-class families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a crib or a car seat. My plan is about getting a $50,000 tax deduction to start up businesses, to our small businesses, knowing that they are part of the backbone of America's economy. Those are my plans. And I think that, unfortunately, what we've got on the other side is someone who wants to distract from the fact that his plan is about giving billionaires and big corporations a tax break like he did the last time and doing that again.
But you would acknowledge that as vice president, you can't do the things that you can do as president.
Well, absolutely. There's only one president of the United States. But I have been very excited to spend time in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania. I was just in Pittsburgh actually talking about my economic plan, but to spend time in Pittsburgh and in the rest of the state talking with folks about what I intend to do as president. And I am so honored and humbled to have received a lot of the support from the folks in that beautiful city of Pittsburgh and around the state, because I believe that what I'm talking about in terms of lifting up American workers and American families is something people want to know that their president will do.
Yeah, so once again, we have another non-answer from Kamala Harris. She was asked point blank, hey, Trump is criticizing you for not accomplishing the things that you claim you're going to accomplish as president, but you had 4 years as vice president to get these things done. Did Joe Biden not give you any responsibility? Did he not give you the power to do the things that you say that you want to do as president? And again, this is a very important question. And we have to continue to ask this question because the mainstream liberal media is trying to defend Kamala Harris and to deflect and try to pretend as if you don't know civics, if you want to hold Kamala Harris accountable for her failure as vice president to do the things that she claims she's going to do as president. Although Joe Biden came out here and went on record on The View and stated that, yeah, I delegated a lot of foreign and domestic responsibilities to Kamala Harris because as vice president, she could have done all the things that I did as president. This is what Joe Biden said. So when given an opportunity to explain exactly what you did, Kamala, what did you accomplish, how much power was delegated to you, she folds. She doesn't want to explain. She doesn't want to explain. She doesn't feel the need to explain what exactly were you responsible for. But she wants you to give her credit, though, for casting the tie-breaking vote in the Inflation Reduction Act to increase fracking leases. And that's proof that as president, she wouldn't ban fracking because as vice president, she didn't do it. And let's be honest, she's lying about that because the Biden administration has done everything they can to get rid of Trump's executive orders that were put in place to ease restrictions on oil and gas and new drilling. This is the same administration that canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, right? They had a moratorium on new drilling and things like that. Also in the Inflation Reduction Act, what it actually really did is that it just required that federal leases be offered to oil and gas companies prior to when, which is not the same thing as being sold, okay? Because what happens is that when these companies want to drill, okay, when they want to frack, there's a whole bunch of lawsuits, okay, involving the environment and a whole bunch of other regulatory stuff. And these companies end up losing. And that drilling never actually really happened. So she's lying about that. But my point is this. She wants to use the logic of, well, I cast this tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, and which she lies about what it actually really does when it comes to fracking. But again, she wants you to give her credit for that as proof that she won't ban fracking. But yet she also promised that she would get rid of taxes on tips. But in that same piece of legislation that she cast that tie-breaking vote for, it instructed the IRS to crack down on tip wages, to collect taxes on those tip wages. So according to her same logic, we can use her vote, her tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act as proof that she right now is lying about getting rid of taxes on tips. You did the exact opposite of what you're promising that you're going to do as president. So which one is it? And again, this is the most frustrating part about it. They want to give Kamala Harris credit for tie-breaking votes when it's convenient for her, but then when it's not convenient, they want to say, no, you can't hold Kamala accountable because she didn't have any power as VP. Joe Biden didn't give her any assignments. She actually didn't have any control over border policy or any say over border policy, despite the fact that she was border czar. She didn't have anything to do with that. You shouldn't hold Kamala Harris accountable for the fact that we don't have peace between Ukraine and Russia, despite the fact that she was sent over there to prevent Putin from invading Ukraine, and he did it anyways. You shouldn't hold her accountable for the fact that there's no ceasefire between Israel and Gaza, despite being in a position of power where she can actually, call up Netanyahu and try to negotiate some type of ceasefire agreement. You shouldn't hold her accountable for the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, despite the fact that she claimed that she was the last person in the room when Joe Biden made that decision. It's almost as if she's the most powerful, but yet the weakest vice president in history. At the same time, she's super powerful, but she's also very weak, okay? Because, again, when it comes to things that are beneficial that the Biden administration has done, which is not a lot, by the way, okay? Not a whole lot. Well, you have to give her credit for that. You have to give her credit for that tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act that expanded the fracking leases. You have to give her credit for that. That's proof that she supports fracking. She won't ban fracking. But also at the same time, they're trying to say that, no, you can't blame Kamala Harris at all for the disasters of the Biden administration because she was powerless as VP. She had no power to set the agenda or to influence the administration at all. Again, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And Kamala Harris is failing to explain exactly what she was delegated to do. What power did you have? Because I'm very confused right now, right? I'm very confused in regards to what is it that Kamala Harris was responsible for, because the liberal media is trying to tell us that she wasn't responsible for anything. And if she wasn't responsible for anything, right? If she was so weak, if she had no say, then that begs the question of, well, why is that? Why is it that Joe Biden, who's clearly not running the show, I mean, the guy has declined mentally so much that he had to pull out of the race, right? Why is it that Kamala Harris had no influence over that guy, right? If she could not exercise influence over that guy, being the vice president that has casted the most tie-breaking votes in the history of this country, then what does that say about her? What does that say about her leadership abilities? That tells me that she ain't really qualified to be president, because clearly Democrats didn't feel like she was that qualified just a year ago. Just a year ago, Democrats were hard pressed to say anything positive about Kamala Harris. They would rather run with Joe Biden as a mentally declining president who can't complete 2 sentences. They'd rather run him than run Kamala Harris. The only reason that Joe Biden is not running is because he embarrassed himself on the world stage so much that Democrats couldn't continue to gaslight the American people about his mental deterioration. That is the only reason Kamala Harris is a Democrat Party nominee right now. And they didn't even let anybody vote on it. So again, my point is that you can't have it both ways. You can't say that she was so great as VP. You have to give her credit for all of the good things that the Biden administration did, but she takes no blame for the bad things, for the disastrous policies. Although she was border czar, although she was given foreign responsibilities to prevent war, she failed in that. She casted tie-breaking votes for the disastrous legislation that was passed by this administration that has tanked the economy, that has caused inflation. But, hey, if this is what the Kamala Harris team wants to continue to do, if they want to continue to not be honest, if they want to continue to gaslight the American people, to not explain herself, to not articulate exactly what she did, be my guest. Be my guest. This is why Kamala Harris is struggling right now compared to Joe Biden, compared to Hillary Clinton, compared to all the Democrats in the past, her predecessors. This is why she's struggling. Interviews like this, she doesn't feel the need to explain anything. And when you don't explain obvious flip-flops, that creates mistrust. People can criticize J.D. Vance all they want, but J.D. Vance comes out and says, hey, I was wrong. I was wrong about President Trump for X, Y, and Z reason. This is why I went from saying X, Y, and Z about Trump to supporting him now. People can say what they want, but at the very least, he's acknowledging I was wrong, right? That is what he's saying. He's acknowledging I actually said that. He's not lying to you and saying, well, I didn't say that. That's a mischaracterization of what I said. No, yeah, I said it, but I was wrong. I learned after the first Trump administration, I realized that, hey, his policies was actually great and that, you know, this is the direction that the country should be headed in. And this is why I support the guy. It's really that simple. You know, but apparently this is something that Kamala Harris feels like she doesn't have to do, right? She doesn't need to do this. And again, this is why she's struggling. So, hey, keep it up, Kamala. Keep it up. Keep doing this. I support you not explaining to the American people why is it that you flip-flop and not explaining to the American people exactly what you did as VP. Continue to do that. Great campaign strategy. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.